What's something that is romantic in movies but creepy in real life? Stopping someone's wedding and asking them to be with you. Really? You couldn't shoot your shot before the wedding? It's not a surprise event. You're really going to embarrass everyone involved and destroy their wedding day when you could have just shown up last Wednesday. Or ditching your wedding at the last minute for some woman you only met once. Looking at You, Serendipity. There was a Ben Affleck Sandra Bullock movie in the 90s that I loved because Affleck is trying to get to his wedding and, due to a comedy of errors, falls in with Sandra Bullock on a crazy cross-country trip full of shenanigans. Of course, he gets there and goes in to tell his wife that the wedding is off and he's in love with Bullock. But then, he sees her, remembers why he loves her, and goes through with the wedding. At the time, I thought it was a bullshit ending. In retrospect, I love it because it makes so much more sense and it totally subverts the Hollywood trope. Forces of nature. I don't like nor remember practically any rom-com type movies, but as soon as I read this thread, it was the first one I thought of. Saw it as a teenager bored watching HBO, and I remember the ending surprised me due to how against the Hollywood marriage trope it was. A not great movie with a great ending. My ex, who had no contact with me for almost a year when he found out I was getting married, called me the night before crying and pleading that I don't get married. He kept saying I was the love of his life, blah blah blah. Funny how you ghosted the love of your life and now pop back up when she is about to marry someone else. In hindsight, I should not have gotten married. That's a different story. Those elaborate plots that trick the other person into falling for you. How do you even trick a person to fall for you? If they're not into you, that's never going to work, yet in movies it always does. And the trick part implies it's lying to or forcing the other person. How is that in any way a healthy base for a relationship of any kind? Casually stalking who they're pursuing. Especially if they're a police officer or FBI agent and they just casually look up their interest in the database. Stopping weddings. I attended a wedding in a city hall. The mayor said he's never heard someone say no, but he has already seen people who tried to stop weddings. He or she got ejected quickly, but it never affected the ceremony. I can't imagine that it didn't affect it whatsoever. Sure, they probably proceeded like normal, but surely the mood was off. Here was a scene in Love, Simon, where one of Simon's best friends is subject to a public proposal in front of the entire school, and she then has to suffer the horror of publicly turning him down because she doesn't like him in that way. I sunk down in my chair in the cinema and had to look away. Super cringe, but at least they actually showed how that would play out realistically. I had a guy ask me out in front a third of the school before one of the 3 lunch blocks. With a huge sign that took multiple people to hold. I cried, which he mistook as happy tears and assumed we were dating now. I had to super awkwardly let him down once we were alone. Relentlessly pursuing an ex who clearly doesn't want you back. Sorry dude, leaving wine and roses in your ex-girlfriend's car while she's at work isn't cute. It's super creepy and stalkerish. Not taking no for an answer yes. I love the movie still, but the scene in The Notebook when Noel literally just dangles from the top of the Ferris wheel and essentially threatens suicide if someone who he's only met a couple of times who has a boyfriend won't agree to go out with him is pure insanity. If you don't have a gun to your head and a gun to your crush's head, then it's not real love. I hate when some dude in a movie keeps jazzing after the girl to convince her that they're meant to be together. Bonus hate points if your heroine's a wedding or something to do it. I also hate when women in movies conspire to manipulate a man into falling in love. It's not cute. Yay, I hate it when in TV shows the son will have issues with asking out a girl, so he goes to the dad, and the dad says something like, "Don't take no for an answer. I had to ask your mother out X amount of times, till she finally gave me a chance." I know that sounds hella specific, but I swear I've heard it in 1,000 different shows. It's such a weird trope. These days we call them stalkers, not continuing the illusion that it's some grand and sweet gesture to follow her around harassing her to fuck you until she gives up, like a predator wearing down prey in The Long Hunt. When couples are fake dating and trying to convince their family, then the family forces them to kiss in front of everyone to prove their love. No family would ever do this in real life, it's fucking weird. Like please, make out in front of Nana and your Uncle Ken. Bumping into the same person over and over again, I think that's called intercourse. Bumping into each other and throwing all papers around. I would be fucking annoyed, goddamn it Randy. What is this, the 5th time this week? What's your excuse this time? Need to get new contacts again? Lost your balance? Tripped over the non-existent stress relief ball? You stapler. Randy did not get laid that night. Again. Stealing their baby brother and taking them to the castle at the center of the labyrinth to eventually turn them into goblin. It's only creepy if you're not David Bowie. Bowie married his first wife, Mary Angela Barnett, on 19 March 1970 at Bromley Register Office in Bromley, London. They had an open marriage. Angela described their union as a marriage of convenience. We got married so that I could get a permit to work. I didn't think it would last, and David said, before we got married, I'm not really in love with you, and I thought that's probably a good thing, she said. Bowie said about Angela that living with her is like living with a blowtorch. Bowie's own relationships are nothing short of fascinating and movie-like. I'm really not sure what he means by living with a blowtorch. Technically I live with a blowtorch, it doesn't do anything until I get it out, attach some gas and turn it on. Maybe that's what he means. I think that movie is pretty good at showing what a toxic relationship can look like. You can be fascinated and afraid of someone at the same time. I ask for so little. Just fear me, love me, do as I say, and I will be your slave. I love this line. Also, random fun fact, Bowie made all the baby noises in Dance Magic Dance because the actual baby noises were too shit. Everything you've wanted, I have done. You asked that the child be taken, I took him. You cowered before me, I was frightening. I have reordered time. I have turned the world upside down, and I have done it all for you. I am exhausted from living up to your expectations. Therapists stating you're having sex with their patients. Oh, but they have such a deep connection. No, that's a malpractice lawsuit in the making. All I can think of is Lucifer, but this isn't the only creepy thing in that show. Edit. Why is this gaining many replies? Not that I would say no to replies. Obsessive and unrequited love, sometimes spanning years, that ultimately succeeds because the less interested party gets worn down and realizes they're a big dummy and they loved them after all. Edit. Rip my inbox, a good thing I have nothing better to do this week, so I'm reading all your replies. I'm seeing a lot of this worked out for me, I'm sure it did. Not everyone meets and falls in love on the same schedule, and sometimes it's all in the timing. I'm happy so many of y'all all found an amazing person to spend your lives with. Maybe you're the exceptions and not the rule. I'm definitely not feeling extra single now. Maybe I'm bitter no one obsessed with me, JK. That being said, I think being deluded and obsessed with someone where you've built them up in your head and have an idealized version of who they are is unhealthy. You don't want to be Harold from the Stanley. Also PS tie for the awards. I know acknowledging them is lame, but my good manners never allow me to ignore them. It's super weird, but apparently, it does happen. My girlfriend was at a wedding for two people like this. The guy was obsessed with a girl in high school, but she never gave him the time of day. They stayed friends in college. She started developing feelings for him that sort of cascaded into her obsessing over him, but he had been friend-zoned so long that he didn't notice any of the hints. Now they're married and still completely obsessed with each other.